Conversations on the Fringe.
Serious questioning began around the age of 8. I used to keep and raise racing pigeons in my home in Manchester, next to Manchester Airport, which in those days was a small RAF base. Sometimes I'd put some of the birds in a basket, put them on my bike, and take them a few miles away and release them. And I noticed how they would usually circle once or twice overhead before zigzagging all the way home over the horizon. And this absolutely fascinated me because I couldn't understand how they found their way home and why they circled and zigzagged. Now, the answer to that question had to wait until I left Naval College in 1970 and I joined my first ship as a radio officer. We sailed down the Manchester Ship Canal into a force 10 storm. I remember standing in the wheelhouse as we tried to cross the Bay of Biscay of France. And every time there was a large wave hit the bow of the ship from the southeast, we got pushed off course. Whenever that happened, the deviation between the intended course and the actual course was detected by the steering gear and the gyro compass that worked together. The steering gear then converted that error into an electrical signal that sent the rudder in the opposite direction to bring the ship back on course. And at that time, I turned around and checked the course recorder on the bulkhead behind me, and I could see that the ship was following a zigzag pattern, just like the pigeons. And I knew then instantly that the pigeons must have been sensing the magnetic field of the Earth in order to navigate home. But I still couldn't understand what made them return to the place where they'd been born. I then recalled how, about the age of 10, I'd gone to Manchester Airport with my friends to see the first Boeing 707 land. The reason was important because looking back, that was about the time jet lag first began to be appreciated. I'd also noticed how during my first trip to sea, I began to feel homesick the further I sailed away from home. It seemed to me that jet lag and homesickness must be caused by a change in hormones that caused depression. This meant two things. The first is that the magnetic field of the Earth must be influencing the hormones and changing our biorhythms, if you like. Mm-hmm. And the second is that the magnetic field of the Earth must be shuffling up the genes at the moment we're born or the moment we're conceived, so that we always felt comfortable and peaceful at home. So whenever we moved away from that location, it must cause anxiety, which we now call jet lag and homesickness. So when the pigeons were released, they simply circled overhead to find the point of the circle where they felt most comfortable. Then they flew in the direction of home, following the Earth's magnetic field. They zigzagged like the plot of the ship's course recorder, as though they were following a magnetic beam of light. If they went too far to the left, they felt more depressed, so they came back and turned to the right. If they moved too far to the right, they moved too depressed again, and so they returned to the left. And in that way, they could sense the magnetic field and return to the place they were born. Now, I guess a lot of my work comes down to fortuosity, if you like. Mm-hmm. I was in the right place at the right time, because in 1984, a team of biologists at the Naval Research Institute in Bethesda, Maryland, were carrying out experiments on test tube babies when they noticed that the magnetic fields from the electric lights in the lab were shuffling up the genes. When I heard this research, it seemed clear to me that the localized magnetic field where we're born must cause genetic mutations in genes that make us feel comfortable when we're in the place that we were conceived.